from the poll, we have a few people on who did not attend last week, which is good. We're seeing some new and returning users, kind of a mix of people who are seeing information helpful and people who are now looking to see a little bit more. So just so everyone knows, last week we did record the webinar. That's on our YouTube channel, and we can, we'll send that out and send these videos out every week just to see, so you can see the slides and you can refer back to what we were going over, and any demonstrations that Josh is giving, they're going to also be available in the Help Center as well now. So that will be an added resource in terms of what you'll be able to access in tutorials and builder demonstrations as well. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. If everyone saw the email, today we're going to talk a little bit about alternative tours you can be doing right now during COVID, but also just some tours we've seen other organizations do that maybe people haven't necessarily thought of they could do. We have museums do walking tours. We have you know, people that are just a sole institution maybe team up with their town and do historical tours. So we're going to dive a little bit into some examples of that today, and just to show you what you can do. And then maybe you'll be able to see some new tours that maybe you want to implement during COVID. If you're an organization, maybe you want to get people outside and walking. So we'll just dive right in, and I will share the presentation. All right. So alternative tours. Right now, everyone knows we have opened up all of our plans. So in terms of content and tours, you're no longer limited. You should be able to add as much content, digitize your collections as much as you want for right now. We have gotten some questions in terms of when that's going to be ending. We're not going, no, once you create those tours, once you add that content, you are grandfathered into that. We're not going to say, oh, you have to remove this once COVID's over. You will be able to keep that content. So if you are going to add that content, now would be the time. In terms of when we're going to stop doing that, when we're going to limit the plans a little bit more, it's going month by month. Obviously, the situation changes so much every day. So as of right now, that's just what we're doing for, you know, the next few months, and then we'll kind of see what's going to happen in terms of COVID, maybe this summer. Okay, so some alternative tours we've seen. I talked a little bit about digital collections the past few weeks, actually, because it is really important to keep your collections open and accessible for everyone. We saw something really cool recently, which was one of the apps, which is called an Essentials Tour. It's actually not in the Georgia O'Keeffe app. It's in another app that's actually custom made. But the Essentials Tour that we had seen was kind of a cool, quick, fast way to highlight, you know, key works in the museum. And it's nice because we keep using these terms fast, and easy in terms of resource, like a favorites tour or an essentials tour. That's really one that can get up and running really, really quickly. Also, if you already have that digital content, if you already have those digital assets, that could be up and running within a day if you wanted it to be. Another cool one is kind of a favorites tour. Again, this is maybe a shorter tour. Maybe you highlight some staff favorites, and in terms of content, record audio. This would be another kind of example on how to do that. Is maybe you want to talk to your staff members and say, hey, does everyone want to let us know maybe a favorite artwork? And then we're going to create a tour based on staff favorites in the app. If you create audio or video, we'll insert that. Another cool thing which might take a little bit more planning and time, would be maybe a user's favorites tour. So maybe you reach out to people on social media and you have them send in audio or video explaining maybe a piece in your museum or your collection that they really enjoy seeing, and maybe you kind of make it that favorites tour, a visitor's favorites tour. So that would be a really cool way to both engage with your users and also kind of get that easy content to upload and get a tour up running real quick. Also, obviously, we always see these unique exhibition tours. Another one, which might be a nice idea right now, is maybe a sneak peek tour. What would you see in the museum if we were open? What would you see in our collection when we will open? So maybe you want to highlight an exhibition that's coming up a little sooner than you expected, or maybe you want to give people a sneak peek into a permanent collection, or maybe stuff that's actually not even on display in the museum. Maybe it's in the back, maybe it's put away for right now. So that might be a cool way to also add add new content. You're not just giving them your normal collection, but you're also showing people that you do have new content that can be uploaded every week, or it's something that can kind of be a little bit of turnover. Another one which we've seen with some museums or some organizations are closed are maybe a history tour of your organization. Maybe you want to go through how the organization started, how large is your collection today. It doesn't only need to be digital collections. It also can be a historical tour of, maybe there's also architecture outside your building. We have, like I had mentioned earlier, we have the St. Louis Public Library, who is a client of ours, and they're obviously a library, they're a public library, but at the same time, their building is it's an architectural gem. So they use their tours to highlight that architecture throughout the building. So maybe there's other aspects of your organization that you're not necessarily thinking that you can highlight, but it could be an added feature or added content that can be added now, or maybe you have a little bit of extra time. We have been getting people say, if you don't have those digital assets, how easy is it for me, go in and get that, take these photos, and am I allowed to? And that's obviously more of an internal discussion on how strict is your lockdown where you are, or are people still allowed in, maybe staff members, a few people at a time to see some stuff or take care of some stuff. Again, that would be something that you would discuss, but we have had people in terms of like virtual videos go in and actually just record on their own pieces and walk through the institution because it is empty right now. And we have seen that working quite well in a few. So this is just one of those alternative tours. Obviously, people are normally always highlighting their collections, but that essentials tour, that favorites tour, that sneak peek tour, that history tour of the organization, these are all those alternative tours that maybe you're not thinking of. Maybe you don't need to highlight the entire collection, but you could highlight just that one small portion of it. Again, I don't know who was on for Curtis, or if you had seen this, but we are taking people onto our Curtis platform right now, which is a digital collections platform. This is really cool because it's very archival. So from books to images, anything you want to necessarily highlight can be added into this digital collections platform. If you want more information, just feel free to email your CSM or support@oncell.com, and we can maybe do a demo or a walk signing up for this. But this is something that we are taking people on right now. And as you can see, you can have your collections, you can have these images here. And the other great thing about this is that it is actually an interactive platform. So your users can talk with you through it and comment and kind of archive their own stuff. So something to think about in terms of these digital collections and moving forward. And it's not necessarily a tour, but it does allow people to navigate your collections fairly easily. So we kind of bulked together walking tours, driving tours, hiking tours. We kind of bulk those all together in terms of what we're going to show you. But this one's great, Florida Stories walking tours. This one specifically allows you to just kind of stroll through the streets. And I know some people are a little bit limited to what they're allowed to do outside. Again, this would kind of depend on what people are allowed to do in your area, but people are still going out and getting exercise, and there are ways to walk around in social distance. So it is just kind of a reminder that even if you're an organization where your doors are closed, maybe you want to still stay engaged. So maybe you want to launch something like a walking tour around the grounds. Maybe you want to team up with your town if you have a lot of history with that town and then your community. Maybe you want to launch a walking tour through the town, and you maybe offer the town a spot in the app to do something. So, and also locally news-wise, that would probably get a little bit of hype, I think I would assume. So that might be a good way to both interact with your town, your community, but also get people a little bit aware of the app. I'll let people know that there's this walking tour that you're added. You're an organization that your doors are closed, but at the same time, these apps, they don't only need to be used for inside, showing your collections or showing off your building. They can be used to engage outdoors as well. And that's something that is important to just remember in terms of what you can do and what you can implement to stay engaged and also promote that exercise and just keep people a little bit entertained at the moment. Okay, so this is just a simple biking tour, but again, kind of shows what you can do and what's capable with the OnCell builder. This one specifically gives a few places to go, loops that you can do. Obviously, biking right now, I have seen a lot of people biking. It's an easier way to social distance, but get that exercise. It's something that, again, can be implemented similarly like the walking tour in terms of directions and routes, but at the same time, it provides people with that added outlet. You know, like I said, doesn't only have to be an indoor app. It doesn't only have to be something that you're using as an audio guide. It can be something that you're pushing people to go interact. And at the same time, a lot of people are like, oh, well, how would this, benefit my organization? Telling people here's this walking tour you can do in town. And it just keeps you engaged with your users and kind of in the forefront of their mind at all times. And providing them with something to do during this time it's authentic, and you just want to make sure that you're keeping those bonds with your visitors. So this was just a quick example of essentially what could be done with the OnCell builder in terms of a biking tour. Driving tours are also great. A lot of people are at this time, going out for a drive, trying to get out of the house. And this is a great example. This one really highlights Dorchester County, and it's a really scenic tour. And at the same time, this is something that can be done anywhere in any town and any county. And it doesn't have to necessarily be difficult to implement. Again, like some of these images can be found in public domain, and a lot of kind of created quite quickly because you have that history and that content there. It's just about creating the tour itself and uploading that to the builder. Also for OnCell specifically, the mapping is great for this one, and just kind of shows, you're here, and then you can also add other points of, certain other, maybe other places, maybe other parks or things in the area, lakes, things like that. So, and Josh will show in the OnCell builder that you can actually change what the pins look like. So you actually kind of have a full encompass town tour where maybe local institutions that look like this pin, and then this pin is places you can go walking. So something to think about in terms of driving tours and getting people out of the house and allowing them to just kind of entertain themselves a little bit. This is another one. We had talked a little bit about the Hit the Trails app last week. This one was actually sponsored by Wegmans Food Markets and is in partnership with Mark DeCracker, who's on the line as well. So this one specifically, like we had said, there's that COVID message, avoid the crowded areas, practice social distancing. This is that added level of responsibility of you can go outside, you can walk, you can hike, you can still social distance responsibly. And we don't want to promote that you go out in groups, but we do want to promote that you are still getting exercise and living your life essentially. So this is great. Mark had brought up last week that he had put that right on the homepage right here. That pledge to avoid those crowded areas, stay local, and practice social distancing. And this one's also great because it also does include historical tours of the town as well. So this isn't just a hiking app where you can finish a hike and you earn a badge in the area. This is something where there's that added aspect of historical tours as well in the area. So this one is a perfect example of alternative tours. So you have your hiking tours, but then you have your historical town tours as well. And again, something that an institution could implement with those historical town tours. So just two really great examples of these historical tours and kind of creating something a little bit alternative. So the example that you'll see on the left is a town tour, Peterborough, and theirs is really historical and really great in terms of walking and what you can see and do. Another great thing is that when stuff does reopen, this app does actually have restaurants and parking information and a lot of practical information as well as historical information. And the historical information doesn't only have to be a walking tour. This one you can actually also use remote as well. And we've been using that word remote a lot. So you where people could walk it or people could use it at home. This is actually for the Literature Museum in Amsterdam, if I'm correct. And this museum specifically created routes for certain artists and writers that can be taken. This one is in Dutch, so it might be a little bit difficult for anyone in the US here to read, but it is a really cool example of what can be done. So this museum didn't necessarily just highlight a collection. You can walk the streets and hear your favorite writers and your favorite artists talk about places that inspired them and routes that they had actually taken, and you can actually hear them read certain excerpts of their own writing. So this is a really, really cool way to implement something a little bit different. So maybe if you're in a local area where there is a lot of artists, maybe you can even have them possibly do a town tour of places that inspire them. Maybe leverage some of those partnerships if you're a smaller gallery in the area. But this is one that's really cool. And in terms of content, again, this would take a little bit more gathering, but it is something that you could also have on hand. And the audio doesn't have to be from the writer's perspective. You could also just explain it or have staff members explain it as well. So this is just a way to take a museum but implement an actual walking historical tour. And this one's cool because you can actually walk the streets of Amsterdam listening to this tour and hearing from these writers. So that's just another way to kind of do that. Okay, so for a gardens and grounds tour, Ronaldo does it really well in terms of telling people you can come on our grounds at all times. That wanderers welcome down here that you can see with that red line. This is just promoting people to come and explore the garden and the grounds. And again, this is something that can be done for museums, historical sites, anything really. Maybe you don't have stuff necessarily that can be seen outside. Maybe you don't have that garden. That's okay. There might be other stuff in the area like we just discussed, maybe on that street or in town that you could highlight. But this one, if you do have anything to see on the grounds in terms of a garden, outdoor sculptures, that architecture again of the building, if there's any historical background on that, it's just about allowing people to use your information inside as well when you open, but also allowing people to engage with you on the outside of your walls. So this is just a really great example of what can be done in terms of, we have this garden, we have this beautiful grounds that you can still kind of come see and explore in terms of social distancing. So you don't necessarily need to promote that people are going out in lardings, but it is about giving people an outlet to be outside. Maybe you can't share your collection right now, or maybe people can't be in the museum listening to your audio, and that's okay because there are these other things that you can do to stay engaged with your communities. Again, we only bring up the signage thing because if you do have something outside, signage, we can't say it enough because we do see that spike in usage in terms of what people are putting on site and what people have inside the museum. So these, again, are just some examples of ones that have been put outside in terms of audio tours. We can pretty much do anything design-wise, so completely feel free to message me, message your CSMs, get in touch, and that's something we can discuss. But if you do implement maybe a tour outside or a grounds tour, it might be a good idea just to contact and just say, hey, we just want to put up a quick sign. So this could just kind of help people be aware of these alternative tours that you might be implementing until you can reopen. All right, so I am going to kind of hand it over to Josh, who is going to answer any questions in terms of these tours, but also if there are no questions, we can dive right into maybe a demonstration on mapping on both platforms and how you would maybe do a walking tour or a driving tour or a hiking tour, and just kind of maybe setting up those geo alerts and things like that as well. So feel free, we have the Q&A box as well on here, so you can also put your questions there, or you can put them in the chat and we will be more than happy. And again, if anyone would like to know a little bit more about Curtis, again, reach out. You're not going to be locked into anything. You don't have to have a, super insane discussion with us about it. But if you do just want a quick demo or just kind of seeing if it's a little bit feasible for your organization, that's totally fine. We're open to having those discussions with you.
Great. And yeah, we do have two questions so far. So as mentioned, I'll run through the mapping and setting up some location alerts, which was a question that Rafi had. And then also Pernilla asked about if it's possible to launch a tour for free, but then charge for it later. And that is something that's definitely possible. With our OnCell platform, it's not, we don't have in-app purchases on that, but on our My Tours builder, which Pernilla's app is currently on, we do have in-app purchases, and you can switch the pricing of that at any time. And so right now we'll dive into, I'll share my screen here, and we'll do some mapping walkthrough. And then if there's any other questions, please feel free to just drop those in the chat or in the Q&A. So we'll start here with the My Tours builder, and then we'll go into the OnCell builder. The OnCell one is, as it tends to be, a little bit more intricate. So with the My Tours builder here, so you've got your overview page, and then where you're actually putting these points on the map is just this plot stops on a map tab. So opens up here, world map, and then if you want to zoom in, wherever this tour might be taking place. And everything is pretty simple, just simple drag and drop. So if we were doing a tour around the lake here, each of these points are linking to pages that we had created on the Add and Edit Stops tab. You can add, all the points here. And then clicking to edit these points if you're adding geofence, or if you've dragged it but it's not quite in the correct location, you can just switch the latitude and longitude right here if you have that information. You can also switch the marker. There's some custom markers in here, so we can switch it to this here. And there's all these different markers, different colors. So if they, if you're having different colors denote different, could be, if it's a hiking tour or something like that, could be different levels of difficulty, or, really a number of different options with that. And then setting up those geofences. So by default, these are enabled. So that's going to create those location alerts for the user, which they can also turn on and off from the live app itself. But if it's defaulted on, the default radius 50 meters here, you can increase this if needed, or decrease as well. We don't recommend going below 15 meters. The accuracy at that point does get lessened. And also, if you wanted custom latitude and longitude markers, so maybe, maybe this is exactly where this point is supposed to be. But if you wanted the alert to actually trigger as the user is still, somewhere down here on this road, you do have the option. You can keep the marker here, but set the latitude and longitude to be different. Also a number of different map options that you can switch between. So you've got your standard map here in 3 different languages. And then also you can switch to an outdoor terrain map, satellite map, or if you did have a custom map, could be either, you know, a historical map, or if you are doing this for an indoor location, it could be, you know, a floor plan map. And one thing that's really nice about the My Tours platform is if that map is geo-referenced, which is something you would be doing outside of the builder, maybe georeferencer.com is a good site to use, but you can geo-reference that map so that an indoor map can still show the user's location. Actually, it's just kind of matching up different points on it so that it gets the correct latitude and longitude points for that image. And then we'll switch over to OnCell here and run through some mapping there. So this is just my test project here. So I do have the map for OnCell is really just a widget, so it can be added to, you know, you can have as many maps as you want in here. It's just a matter of adding markers to those maps. For right now, we'll treat this as we're doing just kind of a general map for the whole tour. So again, adding markers. In this case, it's a little bit the opposite of the My Tours. So you're actually starting with the coordinates and then linking it to the corresponding page. So if you know the latitude and longitude points, you can put those in here. If you know the address of the location, you can put it in here. The other option is to just click on the map to drop the marker. And then if you're setting it there, all these different options you have for icons, depending on what you might be looking for. And then setting that link is just clicking here, this link, finding the page you want, and then you can title it, you know, anything you want. If you leave the title blank, it will just pull in the page name that you've set. So all these different colors, different icons. If it is kind of a general map, if you have multiple tours on this map, you know, each tour could be a different color, different icons for different locations. Maybe, you know, in your town, you want to highlight different local restaurants. We have some icons that could denote that. History, art, hiking, you know, just different icons for different tours. Once that's saved, it'll show up here over in our marker list. Add another one. And then some different map options that you do have are the ability to show site numbers on the marker. So if you do have, you know, if these are labeled site 1, 2, 3, so on and so forth, you can show that or choose to not. You can have it center on the user's location or center on whatever you leave this image here in the builder. It can either be on the margin or full screen. And then just giving the options to this middle column here gives the options for the user to be able to show the list of markers that are on the map. They can recenter it to themselves, recenter it to this default location. And then adding geo alerts and location alerts to that are done up here in project settings. Find the location alerts tab. Currently don't have any. So you can add them directly from here. If you haven't created a map yet, you can put it directly here. Or I think the quicker way, if you've already created your maps, you can just import those alerts. Right now we only have the one map page. It gives you all the options for the different maps you might have. So we can pull in that map page. We can set the alert radius. We do have the option for feet or meters here. Again, minimum of 15 meters and 49 feet. Once they're in there, they can be edited. So if they are going to be different alert radiuses. And so that's kind of a quick run through of the mapping. Did any questions come in through that?
I'm not seeing any questions yet about any mapping. Yeah, any other questions about any maybe tours you could implement, any issues with maybe those digital assets or content collection or content creation? Oh, Laura said that she's looking into maybe possibly putting together a guessing game. How would you suggest maybe doing that, Josh?
Oh, a guessing game. That's interesting. Would that be using, I guess I could see that using, probably using our image map, if you were on the OnCell builder. So you could have an image map that might be, different tiles. So let's say there's four images. As long as those are, you just put those together into kind of one square image outside of the builder, and then uploading it with our image map widget would give you the ability, you can put a text box above it that might ask your question, and then those different tiles each can have different links. So 3 of those links could be set to a an incorrect answer page, and the correct tile would allow them to continue on with the game.
We also have another question in terms of the geo alerts and how that's, we have a few questions coming. So geo alerts and how that's noted on the opening page. Does the individual have to enable it on the iPhone or Android? And is there like that, is the toggle on it correct?
Yes, so the end user will have to enable location alerts, the permissions for allowing those on their phone. Unfortunately, we can't, well, I guess fortunately, really, we can't override, what the end user wants to do. So they will have to enable those and accept those permissions. And then by default, there is if location alerts are enabled, there's a little marker that indicates that. And from that marker, they can, it's just up in the upper right-hand corner of the app, and they can toggle on and off from there. Or there is a widget, called, I'm forgetting the name of it, called user preferences, and that will allow you to add that toggle to any page that you might want it on. And it just, again, allows them to turn those location alerts on or off as they wish.
And then there's another question. You said that closer than 15 meters is a little bit difficult. Some locations for the walking tour might be right next to each other. On the iTours app, what are the limitations?
Yeah, so anything less than kind of that 15 meters or 49 feet, we recommend either platform, OnCell or MyTours, will work with Bluetooth beacons. So that can allow you to get down to kind of 5 feet apart. So really shrinks that radius. And there are some beacons out there. Some are strictly for indoor use. They're not great in weather, but they do make some tough outdoor beacons that can be placed, either just outdoors in most weather conditions. And if you have more specific kind of, how beacons work, how we get those set up, definitely reach out either to your CSM or support at oncell.com, and we can help you get those configured.
Yeah, and that might be something that we go a little bit more in depth on as well, because beacons work really, really well in museum situations, highlighting certain aspects of a collection. So when people are walking through your museum and they have the app open and they walk by a certain beacon, it can actually trigger a notification that would bring them to a page and a little bit more information. So it can create a very, very interactive process in terms of, I'm walking, I'm getting this information sent directly to my phone just by walking past beacons. So that can also be a really fun one to maybe implement when you reopen, and creating a tour specifically just surrounded around those beacons. But it looks like, is there any other, if there's any other questions, feel free to keep sending those through. And then
I just saw one.
again, we will have.
I saw one about using video content. So yes, both OnCell and My Tours builders do support using video in most common video formats: MP4, MOV, WMV, WAV.
And that might have been in regards to Curtis as well, which is accepted in Curtis. So all of those, all that type of content would be allowed in Curtis as well, the online collections.
Josh, if you have YouTube videos or Vimeo, can you use those?
So we can link out to either of those just as an external link. If you do have a native app, it does have the ability to open up kind of, in an in-app browser, so it looks like you're staying in the app while actually linking out. The My Tours platform does allow you to embed YouTube videos, so it will only play your video and not just continue directly to the YouTube website. But if you are able to download those, if those are videos that you have or able to get access to, you can embed them directly into the app.
Mark also has a question in terms of, is there a plan to allow that 360 video?
It's definitely something that, keeps coming up and is coming up more and more often. So we are exploring different options to allow for 360 videos. So yes, it is something we are working on.
And if someone on the call here today or any other client or prospect wants that, we're definitely ready to integrate that in and just make it available. So come talk to us about your individual requests there. And
then Todd is also wondering just when maybe we can go a little bit more in depth into badges and scavenger hunt use. We can definitely do a full, there's a lot to learn on that. So we can definitely go a little bit more. That's more focused obviously around the OnCell builder because of that feature parity. But in terms of badges and implementing those scavenger hunts, we can go into that way in more depth in the next upcoming weeks. Again, these topics are really coming from what you tell us you want to learn a little bit more about. So normally when we send out the audio recordings or these reminders, we're also sending out a Google form to fill out, just letting us know what you want to learn a little bit more about. So please include that on the form, anything at all, any questions that we can address on the call when we first open it up. More than happy to discuss anything. And badges is definitely something we want to go a little bit more in depth on, and how to actually create those and insert those images. Also the scavenger hunt as well, because that's a great one. We did do that the first week a little bit and went over how to add that, but I'm still seeing a little bit of questions in terms of those quizzes and that gamification. So I think that we will definitely for sure go into depth on that in the upcoming weeks. But again, put that in that Google form in terms of what you're looking to see, and we can go accordingly. All right, it looks like there's no other questions coming through. Again, if you are thinking of something today and you might have forgotten to ask it, feel free to just contact your client managers. They're always available to talk you through any process or any concerns on adding certain tours or these alternative tours or content. If you saw, a walking tour or driving tour that you're thinking of implementing, but you're not sure how, contact them. We can set up a meeting and walk you through it. That's not a problem. Just, any questions in terms of how to go about these tours is fine. And same with Curtis, feel free to email support@oncell.com and we can discuss that as well. I am not seeing more questions. So again, kind of keep an eye out for that Google form. We will also send out the YouTube video again, like we did last week, which is going to have all of this recorded, and we'll also attach the presentation slides as well. So you can have those to reference and maybe see those examples and download those and play around with those as well. It looks like we may have had one more question. And then Mark is asking, to Josh, do you want us to beta test on the 360 video?
Maybe.
Yeah, probably. If anybody has 360-degree videos right now that they're looking to get uploaded, I think probably sending those, directly to your CSM or support at oncell.com, and we can take a look, at what platform it was developed on. We can do some testing on our end to see, how it's going to upload, what it's going to look like, and then, work with you to actually get it fully integrated.
Yeah.
I see ADK Rich in the chat also asked what will we need for 360-degree video. So same thing. Whoever you're working with here, send them that video, send it to support at oncell.com, and we'll work with you on that.
All right. Well, thanks everyone so much for coming. Feel free again to let us know what you're looking to see within the next few weeks. More than happy to go over anything that people are requesting, any questions that need to be answered. And we will be doing this same topic in the 4 o'clock call. So sometimes we have returning people. Again, feel free to come back on the call, even just to say hi. There is one last question, Josh. Equipment that Mac is wondering, software, etc. What works best with OnCell would be nice for that 360 video. Again, that's something that we still are kind of testing. So we will probably look a little bit more into what would work best with the OnCell platform. We might have to talk to our developer as well and kind of see maybe what will be best. But we'll work on getting that information. All right, well, thanks everyone. Let us know if there's any other questions, and feel free to contact your CSMs today if you want to implement some of these alternative tours. Thanks for coming.